prayed up, meditating and taking time away. You always posting up pictures, trying to look like you winning. I'm writing rhymes in the kitchen, soaking in moments we live in, yeah. You got the nerve to be on me, faking your life for the IG. If you got my number, don't add me, cause baby, I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. Baby, don't check for me. Taking time out to be and live my life off screen. Taking time out to be and live my life. Hey. Taking just don't do and live my life. Don't take it personal. We just building. It's my season, lay foundation, make a name for generations. Please and make a, then take a break or a little vacation and chasing blues away. Hey, hey. You always posting up pictures, trying to look like you winning, or look like you always be working, soaking the moments you live in. Yeah, you got the nerve to be on me, faking your life for the IG. If you got my number, don't add me, cause baby, I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. Baby, don't check for me. Taking time out to be and live my life off screen. Taking time out to be and live my life. I'm in a place serene and pure and free. Hey, I ain't worried about what's the wave, only worry about me. Yeah. Oh, I'm taking time out to be and live my life off screen. Taking time out to.
Let me go for one day. Let me lose myself again. Give me something for the pain. Always trying to pretend that I'm not living just a lie. Broken heart and shattered lives. Let me go for one day. Let me lose myself. Oh, I knew how this would end. Oh, I knew that it would die, that we would come to this, that we would say goodbye. Someone help me see it. Someone help me free this feeling. Someone help me see it. Someone help me free this feeling. Don't wanna think about the past. I'm crying out behind a mask. So give me something for the pain. I wanna lose myself again. Please get out of my mind. Just get out of my sight. Let me go for one day. Let me lose myself. Oh, I knew how this would end. Oh, I knew that it would die, that we would come to this, that we would say goodbye.
just wanna call, see if we're okay, babe. All I wanna ask you is, I don't wanna push you farther away, no. I don't wanna play no games. I just wanna call, see if we're okay, babe. All I wanna ask you is, are you down for?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you this morning? I realized in the reader that I think I copied the same link 3 times. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
I got feelings about you. Oh yeah. Butterflies every time I'm with you. Oh yeah. I don't wanna push you farther away, no. I don't wanna play no games. I just wanna call, see if we're okay, babe. All I wanna ask you is, I don't wanna push you farther away, no. I don't wanna play no games. I just wanna call, see if we're okay, babe. All I wanna ask you is, are you down for? Are you up for? Don't wanna be together, be together. Babe, I want you. I'll be the one you trust. You're all that matters, all that matters. Are you down for? Are you up for? Be together, I wanna be together. Babe, I want you. I'll be the one you trust. You're all that matters.
No matter what we go through, love will still remain. So do what you want, baby. You and me in the sun. Know that I'll still be here when the day is done. So come a little bit closer, and I'll tell you what I feel inside. You know I'm gonna wait on you. I'm gonna wait on you. You know I'm gonna wait on you. Yes, I'm gonna wait on you. No one's gonna love you like I do. So glad that I found you. You're the missing piece, the last piece of the puzzle. I'm finally at ease. So when times are rough and the promises we make just seem so hollow and weak, and we're about to break, we have to remind ourselves, 'cause we know how we feel inside. You know I'm gonna wait
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
What do you do when you're attacked from every direction? When everywhere you turn, it seems as if the system is uniquely designed to come after you, not just you as an individual, but you as a people. What do we do when Black women are targeted by media, by police officers? What do we do when Black men are the targets? We're going to unpack that a little bit today. But first, on the clock with Georgia Ford.
More and more Republicans are pushing back against critical race theory. Not a new idea, but in recent weeks, we've seen more and more Republicans use quotes by Dr. King in order to justify why they don't agree with critical race theory. It's something that is causing a lot of controversy for the King family, and we'll hear from the daughter of Dr. King coming up. But first, I want you guys to hear in context exactly how Republicans are using quotes by Dr. King to justify why we should not be using critical race theory across America. Take a listen.
As the Reverend Dr. King famously said, and he was right, we should judge our fellow citizens by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. Mr. President, we need a strong nation with strong citizens who see each other as Americans, not as oppressors or oppressed.
Critical race theory goes against everything Martin Luther King has ever told us. Don't judge us by the color of our skin. And now they're embracing it, right? They're going backwards.
So using the quote to not judge a person by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That quote by Dr. King is one that has been used often in the Black community to justify why we should be judged by who we are and not by the fact that we're Black. And now that is actually being used by white Republicans to defend why they don't want to move forward with critical race theory being taught in schools. Very interesting dynamic that's playing out here. And it's one that really has the daughter of Dr. King not only upset, but hurt. Take a listen to what she had to say when she was asked about how Republicans are misquoting her father.
How does it feel for you as his daughter to hear his name invoked in defense of refusing to teach history?
You know, that's why I always say, do not take excerpts from my father. Study him holistically. There is a lot. He wrote extensively. That's the beauty of all of this. No matter what people try to say, there are books out, and I thank God we just did a new publishing deal. So there are going to be more books out and more writings so that the record will continue to be straight. Yeah. And I thank God that he was able to write like this, because for people to be able to misappropriate him this way is actually beyond insulting.
So, Ben, Dr. Mack, this makes me ask myself, how did we get here? How did we get to the point where Dr. Martin Luther King is being quoted by white Republicans in order to push their agenda?
It's exactly what you said. You know, when you want to take something out of context, and in this case, his I Have a Dream speech, which was given to the larger population, they became familiar with it. And on August 23rd, 1863, during the March on Washington. But when you go inside the entirety of the speech, Dr. King absolutely scratched the moral consciousness of America. So let's just take today. One of the big issues that we're seeing with the Republican Party is voter suppression. And in that very same speech, Dr. King said the following: "We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote, and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing to vote for." Then he comes down and he says this in regards to police brutality. I'm not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and the staggering winds of police brutality. So in that sense, if you get inside of Dr. King's writings, and I'm talking all of them, now since they simply want to focus on I Have a Dream, and they want to not even focus on the entirety of the speech, but take that one line. Dr. King was saying, yes, I'm looking forward to that day when my children would not be judged by the color of their skin, by the contents of their character. The question remains, Republican brothers and sisters, is that day today? 58 years later, is that day today? And what we heard Sister King say is that that day is not today. And yes, indeed, she is insulted by it.
Absolutely. I'm looking at this. Georgia, you asked the question, how did we get here? I look at what the game, I look at the game that is being played by conservatives when they use this technique. And it's actually a technique that I call, actually, I didn't coin it. Missy Elliott did. They like to flip it and reverse it. And what they've done is they've taken the argument that we use for equality and they flipped it and they reversed it on us. And now they're saying, okay, in order to make sure that you don't actually get any progress, Black people, what we're going to do is make sure that we use the very words of your liberation against you. And so now they've gentrified. They've done what they do. They gentrified and colonized the civil rights language in order to flip it on us, in order to stop us from getting any progress. It is a masterstroke of propaganda, and they've been doing it for years.
You know, and if you listen to that entire interview that Joy Reid did with Dr. King's daughter, another thing that she pointed out, Joy Reid, was the fact that there was an article that came out included transcriptions from a speech Dr. King never even got to do. And he basically was talking about America being hell. And it was a speech he was supposed to give a Sunday after he was assassinated. And so it also makes me think about, you know, did I integrate my people into a burning house? Yes. It makes me think about so many other things that Dr. King has said. And the fact that out of everything, you're going to take this one quote and misappropriate it. Like, let's put that quote in context. Dr. King was not talking about white people. He wasn't talking about white people. And so keep it in context. If you're going to quote a legend, if you're going to quote a peace icon, if you're going to quote one of our most treasured scholars, keep it in context. You know, and so it's frustrating to see Republicans use this in this way. And a lot of times I start to ask myself questions. I always approach these conversations by doing internal reflection and even thinking about Dr. King and him saying this. What if he never said that? What if he never positioned that thought into the world or articulated our struggle in that way? White people would have been okay with continuing to exist in America, where the normal was to judge us by the color of our skin and not by the content of our character. If Dr. King never even framed that our experience in that way, there's a potential that we could still be living in those conditions. And so it is beyond insulting that they would use this quote to defend the fact that they want to abolish critical race theory, which really just highlights not that quote for them, but that quote for us.
You know, but again, Georgia, if one were to get inside of critical race theory, and the very document, and it's not even a document, it's not even the entirety of the speech, it is that one line. That speech in and of itself would absolutely shame America. You know, when Dr. King says, It is obvious today that America has defaulted on a promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. So if we were to ask the question, what promissory note? He's talking about the promissory notes laid out in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution in that preamble. All men are created equal. Let us create a more perfect union. Because in a critical way of thinking, one would ask the Republicans, are all men treated equally in this country? Is this a more perfect union when you're trying to suppress the vote? Because in that speech, he talked about voter suppression. Is this a fair and equal country when it comes to police conduct? Again, if so, then explain Tamir Rice, explain all of these police killings that's going on. So even if you were to take critical race theory and just simply apply it to just that one speech, let alone all the other writings that Dr. King has done, it would absolutely be shameful to him. So for me, I love the fact that Dr. King said it. I'm glad he said it, as I'm sure you are. But if we got inside the critical race theory, since they want to take this man and his words and that one line, let us take the entirety of that speech, which is what we as Black folk have to do. We have to understand the teachings of this powerful man and his thoughts about America. And then once we understand it, every time they go to that line, we'll now take that very same speech and now give them the rest of that speech in its entirety. And it's at that point that you diffuse it. But if we don't know the speech, if we don't know what Dr. King stood for, we don't understand his legacy, then we too are trying to defend that one sentence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It can't be stated any better than that. Only thing that I would add, Brother Mac, when you mentioned, you're mentioning the language and you were alluding to the language in the Constitution as well, right? These are the things that this country tells us. These are the documents that they tell us that we are going to abide by. And we've seen them anytime that we have found a way to use those documents. You've referenced Thurgood Marshall so many times of how he leveraged those constitutional documents to get liberation. What we're seeing now is an evolution in white supremacy, such where they're saying, well, if you're going to use the Constitution against us, if you're going to use language, if you're going to use the language that Dr. King used against us, we're willing to just completely ignore the actual context of all of those documents, of all those speeches, of everything in order to maintain our political and economic power. We saw that on January 6th. When they marched up the steps of the Capitol, they said, we no longer care about the language that's in any of those documents. And if they're willing to just burn the Constitution in order to satiate their desire for power, then they're certainly willing to co-opt the language of Dr. King.
Well, one of the things that is absolutely beautiful and very powerful. See, it's one thing for Sister Ford, for you and me to come here and say it's insulting what you're doing with the words and the wisdom of Dr. King. It's one thing for the three of us to do it. But for baby girl, for the daughter of the king to say it does not get any more powerful and a slap in the face, a punch in the face back to the Republicans for her to say it. And I just applaud that sister for stepping up and saying it. Absolutely do not use my daddy. Because see, it's one thing for us, it's Dr. King. For her, it's her daddy. Don't use my daddy to spew your rhetoric and your philosophies of white superiority. Don't do it.
Yeah. And I want to circle back. The speech he was supposed to deliver, the title of it is Why America May Go to Hell. That was a speech he was supposed to give the Sunday after he was assassinated. And obviously he never got to deliver that speech. But, I wonder also what is going through the mind of these Republicans. Do they think that by quoting Dr. King or any Black community leader that is respected, that they are gaining any more credibility with their arguments? Because it feels passive aggressive, and it feels very intentional that they would not only stand up and fight against teaching critical race theory, but then weaponize the words of a Black community leader to try to prove their point. And so clearly we're not buying it. Are Republicans buying it? Are conservative Democrats buying it? Or are people across the board seeing this as face value? It's very distasteful. It's one thing, have your opinion, feel how you want to about critical race theory. That's fine. It says more about you than it does about me. Have your thoughts on that. That's great. But to weaponize the words of Dr. King in order to try to prove your point.
Well, Georgia, again, when you take a look at the totality of our experience in this country, and again, we've talked about it over and over again, and of course, critical race theory is at the core of this. White folk don't know that history like we, they don't know our experience in this country holistically no more than we do. And those few who do know it, yes, indeed, and what makes them effective in weaponizing it is because the masses of us as a people, Black folk, because we don't know our history, our experience, which is why I'm going to continuously pound the drums on that. Because when you want to talk about Dr. King's talking about America and holding America at check, I'll tell you what I consider his absolute most powerful speech is a speech entitled The Drum Major Instinct. And in that, he talked about, that there is something innate in man that makes man want to be first. And he says there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to be first in love, if you want to be first in clothing the naked, feeding the hungry, that's a good thing. But when that instinct becomes first because you want to be first in racial superiority, that's a problem. So not only does he talk about this instinct inside of man, he talks about it inside of a nation. And when he talks about it inside of a nation, he points his ventum, his criticism directly at America in her participation in the Vietnam War and how she's treating us as a people. So, if you want to go to King, I love the fact, let him go to King, but then let us, who understands King's ideology, who understand his philosophy, who understands his writing, let us sit at the table and let's have that discussion about Dr. King and what he said.
And Sister Georgia, real quick, isn't this what gaslighters do? Isn't this what manipulators do? Isn't it the fact that they will always take and pick what they want out of a passage? I mean, they do this to Dr. King. They don't try it often with Malcolm X, but if they could, they definitely try it. They even do this with religion. And they will intentionally focus on the passages of scripture that help justify slavery historically and ignore all of the scripture that tells us about setting the people free in the year of Jubilee and liberation. This is what gaslighters do in order to maintain political and economic power.
Absolutely. Well, I want to move on, but I do want to approach this next conversation with some compassion. There's a Black state rep by the name of John Thompson, who has recently been going through a lot of things publicly in the media. He is a friend of Philando Castile, who was killed by police 5 years ago in Minnesota. And a lot of you may remember the footage of Philando Castile's, the aftermath of his death, because it was live streamed by his then girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds. And so John Thompson was a friend of Philando Castile. And, the one thing that I really admired about this brother is the fact that he was very, traumatized by what happened to Philando Castile and very angry and did what he could to demand justice. And what it did was it propelled him to run for office. And so there are a lot of people who stand up and say that they want change, but there are not a lot of people who get activated and learn the political game or try to go campaign, get votes, put in the work, and get elected into office so that now you're in a position to actually advocate for the change that you want to see. And so he's been a champion of police accountability. And he's been very vocal, especially after George Floyd now, and using his position and being outspoken to try to, push for change. Well, recently what we've seen is he was at a rally. He talked about a police stop. He got pulled over. He said that he was racially profiled. And immediately when he talked about that experience, the media started digging to try to find the police footage from his traffic stop so that they could investigate whether or not he had been racially profiled. In doing so, they also discovered that he had presented a Wisconsin ID. And we'll take a look at the footage because it has surfaced. So we'll look at that. But he presented Wisconsin ID, and it turns out that he had a suspended license. And also the other piece was potentially his license was suspended from not paying child support. And so now this has turned into the officials here launching an investigation, trying to get him removed from his position, saying that he, questioning if he's even a Minnesota resident because he presented the Wisconsin ID. So there's a lot of different components here. We're going to do our best to break it down. But before we do, I want you guys to take a look at this footage so you can have more context about what exactly happened.
Is there audio?
Why such a hurry? I don't think I took off like a bat out of here. I just drove off. Okay. You got your prison insurance with you? I do. It's in my phone. All right. I'm actually the current state representative in this district right here, man. If that makes any difference. You got a Wisconsin license? Yeah, a Wisconsin license. I'm State Representative John Thompson. Okay. I'll be right back. All right. Sorry, it took a little long, but so there's your license to my card. You're suspended in Minnesota? No. That's what the computer says. If it's wrong, you have to deal with the DVS. Thank you. Why'd you pull me over again, man? No front plate, and then the way you took off from the light back there. I'm too old to run from the police, man. You profiled me because you looked me dead in the face, and I got a ticket for driving while black. You pulled me over because you saw a black face in this car, brother, and there's nowhere in here I'm taking off with you behind me. You looked at me in this car, and busted U-turn and got behind my car. And that's the reason why I know. But what I'm saying is what you're doing is wrong to black men, and you need to stop that. Thank you so much, but this ticket means nothing to me. No. I'm always have a great day. What I'm saying to you is stop racially profiling black men in their cars, sir. Stop doing that. Yes, you were, bro. You saw a black man driving in this car. It don't make no difference. You pulled me over because you're profiling me. Thank you so much. You need to find
Now, initially, John Thompson was told that he was pulled over because he didn't have a front license plate, which I know if you're not in Minnesota, there's a lot of states that actually don't even require that legally. Right. And when you buy a new vehicle, a lot of new vehicles are not even equipped with a front license plate, which he detailed on his social media saying that was his situation. And so, Ben, Brother Mac, I want to bring you guys in on this. There's a thing called pretextual stops. Someone like Philando Castile actually had been pulled over dozens of before his fatal accident in Minnesota. I mean, and Dante Wright even, you guys remember Dante Wright was killed the third week into the Chauvin trial here in Minnesota. He was pulled over for having a incense hanging from his rear view mirror. And so a lot of times in Minnesota, they will find the smallest thing. So you pull this man over because he didn't have a front license plate. That is not a reason why someone would be stopped in Edina or any of these Minnetonka white suburbs. You're not pulling over affluent white residents who just bought a car that doesn't have a front license plate. It's just not really a reason why you would get pulled over. So that was for the initial stop. And then he ends up getting a ticket, a citation for having a suspended license. which leads me to think a lot about, the child support system.
Yeah.
And the fact that you lose your license when you're not paying child support. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't pay, but I'm just saying if they're not paying, if they're having a hard time paying, is taking their license going to help them drive to their job? And so there's a lot of layers here. And but I'm curious to know from you guys initially what your thoughts are on this case.
I'd clearly say this, Georgia, to hear Representative Thompson say what he said, as the cop came back to him, there ain't a black man in America who is going to start speeding. And we're always aware. I mean, we're going to see them when they pull up. And we certainly, even if they're going in the opposite direction, the first thing we do is we go into that side view mirror and that rear view mirror just to see if they turn around. And when they do turn around, we know exactly why they turned around. And Representative Thompson could not have said that any clearer. When you saw that black face in this car, you turned around. That was the pretext of what made you turn around. So from that, all of this now escalating into the other aspects of it. But, what we were talking about earlier, we're seeing it manifest itself here. Trust and believe, if they can target Dr. King, you best believe every one of us as black men know that we're very easily the target.
Georgia, before I expound, what position is this brother in or running for again? Help me understand that real quick.
Yeah, he is actually elected. So he is currently serving. Yes, he is a state representative for District 67A, I believe.
It's not that I didn't hear you. I just needed you to put that out there again so people could have proper context of the juxtaposition I'm about to make right here. This brother, black people in this country, in order to be state representatives, we have to be perfect.
Perfect.
We cannot have a suspended license. We cannot have back child support. We better not have any bad taxes. We better dot every I and cross every T. But if you are a white, mediocre man like Donald Trump, you can have mistresses, you can have your pictures, you can have all kind of indiscretions, and this system will never hold you accountable. But if you are a black man and you got a suspended license, this system will bring down the full force of the government on you. I'm done with this thing out here, man. They playing with us. Forgive me. I'm sorry.
Georgia, I promise you, I don't know if a more eloquent comparison could be made. A representative in the state of Minnesota versus the president of the United States. Brother Dixon, I don't know if you could have put a more adequate comparison that even the blind can see that. It's just powerful, man. Good Lord.
And it's just disheartening because
it is wild. I'm sorry, Georgia. It's wild.
No. I mean, it's disheartening because I feel like we already the amount of black politicians is scarce. And so the few that we do have are being held to this impossible standard. And, when you talked about the whole system coming at him specifically, what I've even seen here is the media, dedicate so many resources to covering this story and to asking questions on before the investigation was even launched, throwing that out there. Oh, he has a Wisconsin license. Is he even a Minnesota resident? Like that's the headline. You're sensationalizing. You're contributing to pushing him out of this position. And what other black man in this state would be better equipped to fight for police accountability than the friend of Philando Castile, and so you want us to come have a seat at the table, but at the end of the day, how inclusive is it? Because John Thompson is not the only person who, and I thought about that too. There was actually a time my license was suspended and I renewed my license in another state in order. So if I have to drive my child to school, I at least have some type of valid driver license in the case of any emergency. you know? And so when you're put in that position and you're simply doing what you're trying to do, what you have to do, like what other choice are you left with that in that situation? And it also makes me question, and none of the other media outlets have examined the child support process. And really, is it effective to strip fathers of their license? If they're not paying child support, is taking their license away going to make them pay it? Is taking their license away going to help them get to the job in order for them to pay? Like, it doesn't really feel like effective. It feels like you are, it's a domino effect that is further sending someone further into a bad situation, right? And in this case, someone who's actually trying to do something good.
And that, Georgia, that is the reason why we're seeing the attack. And I love the fact that you brought in the media. So it is in this entire system. That is why that attack. Trust and believe that if Representative Thompson had a handkerchief on his head and taps on the bottom of his shoes, nobody would be concerned about it. But because they understand the spirit and the nature of this brother to uplift our people, oh yes, he becomes the target. The step and fetching is never the target. It is that strong brother who wants to speak truth to power. He becomes the target.
Absolutely.
Well, I know this is definitely a lot of layers, a lot of complexities to this story, so we could talk about it more, but we are on the clock. So that's all that we have time for this morning. Thank you so much for watching. Stay around for more on The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Heard him talking, they ain't right enough, tighten up. Everything that I came for, I left with. I don't bang sets, I just bang on the set list. Going past supper when I came for the breakfast. Put me in your prayers, I might put you on the guest list. Young and we reckless, gold in my soul, got the same on my necklace. Light it up, light it up, light it up, light it up.
Could really use a change of scenery. Yeah, everybody smoking all the greenery. Yeah, close the match 'cause they were handed down to me. But I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are getting ready to get started in a moment. We don't have DJ exclusive, but we have this music for you. Stay tuned in. We've got some serious stories that we got to cover. Good morning to everyone in the chat room, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, wherever you're watching. The Benjamin Dixon Show, like it or not, on the clock. We will be right back. Stay tuned.
I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it out. It's your time. Cheers to all the haters, 'cause you proved to me that rising to the top was my destiny. And you can see whatever from behind me, but I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could all be worse. Clothes to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you. From the inside out, it's time to say it with your chest now, say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it out. It's your time. Oh, if you're on the bus, say yeah. If you're on the train, say yeah. If you gotta walk, say yeah. Everybody's going somewhere. Young or old, I really don't care. Life has never really been fair. So put your fist up in the air. Say yeah. I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now.
Welcome back, folks. I got a clip. I want to jump right into it. I'm back with Georgia Fort and Brother Carl Mack. I want to jump right into this clip because we need to bring somebody to the woodshed. We need to call Brother Ty Smith, who is a conservative radio show host, and he is a black man and a black father. We need to call him to the Black Roundtable / woodshed. And I want to play a clip, and this is a clip of Ty Smith from Fox News. And he is discussing critical race theory, but from the perspective of people who want to suppress critical race theory. In other words, he is there on Fox News, not on behalf of Black America, but he's there on behalf of, well, Fox News demographic. Let's take a look at that clip.
Military. Folks are worried that this is something that they need to address within the military. And we just did a story about how the Navy is underprepared right now, but they're spending a heck of a lot of time on this. What do you think about that?
It's absolutely absurd because nobody really wants to get the real history of it. America was not founded on racism. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, there was slavery going on, but slavery itself was not initially a racist thing. It never was about race initially. So to sit there and take it like America was founded on racism, it's a complete lie. Yeah, there was slavery going on, but slavery was going on in all the world. It never was a race thing. So why are we making it a race thing now?
Ty Smith, thank you for being here. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you.
I just want us to absorb for a moment the escalation in the buffoonery. There has been an escalation. There's something troubling me in the force. There is because I've seen levels of step and fetchery, Brother Mac. I've seen levels, but I have not seen a Black conservative that I can recall go so far as to say that slavery itself was not racist. Brother Mac, and then Sister Ford.
Sister Ford first.
Okay, Sister Ford, and then Brother Mac. Keep do me a favor and keep Ty Smith in the response shots, because we need to make sure that we constantly remind people of what this brother looked like.
I want to know how much they paid him. I feel like, to be used in that way as a Black man, I want to know why. What was the purpose? What was the reason that he spent 5 minutes out of his day to hop on Fox News and give that commentary? Why? What do you gain? How is this? And to even go further and argue the fact that when you look at not just slavery, but colonialism, when you look at the triangular trade that happened, strategically, you had Europeans who were coming into Africa and kidnapping people. This wasn't, to put it in context of slavery around the world, there are a lot of inconsistencies when you look at the facts of what transpired during the triangular trade. This was not just regular slavery that was happening in other countries. This was targeted. Oftentimes this was, people, like basically human trafficking. Coming to Africa and then stripping people from their heritage, stripping people from their language and their identity. And the treatment of hundreds of people when they were brought from Africa overseas, how many of those people died? People were treated like, animals. They weren't fed. They weren't allowed sanitary places to use the restroom. All of these, the conditions. I mean, you could really examine this to come back against what this brother is saying. It's not about race. And we know it's simply just not true. That is not true. These people were not going and doing this in Italy. They weren't going and doing this in Jerusalem. They weren't going and doing this in any other part of the country. They were specifically going to Africa to do this. So if it wasn't about race, then what was it about? And why weren't they taking that same approach in other countries?
For Mac.
Okay. Ty, I'm going to arrest you for impersonating a professor. So sit down. And Karen, since you don't read, I'm going to give you the cliff notes to this particular lesson. Now, as it applies, let's go back to August 1619, when those first blacks came or were brought to America, right? Okay, I know what he's trying to say. You know, they came here as indentured servants aboard that ship. There was a time in early colonial America, I don't want to call it America, let's call it Britain, right? In those early colonies, when blacks had the right to vote, own property, testify in courts against other whites. As a fact, there's cases where some blacks even had white indentured servants. Some cases. And all one has to do is go to the second chapter of Larone's famed book, Before the Mayflower, and you could read about it. That's the Cliff Note version. So now they want to come in and they want to talk about America. So I want you to keep in mind, those 13 colonies, they were British colonies. So when America wants to say, and Ty, the streetlights are on, mama's calling, get home. Karen, now as it applies just to America, now we all just celebrated the 4th of July, America's independence. Karen, I want you to remember who wrote the original draft of the Declaration of Independence. Since you don't read very much, and most of your Republican friends don't read very much, let me remind you of your history. Thomas Jefferson wrote that. Now, when Thomas Jefferson wrote the original draft, for those who are listening, I want you to look up the omitted passage of the Declaration of Independence. It starts like this. He has waged cruel war against human nature itself, violating its most sacred rights of life and liberty of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery into another hemisphere or to incur their miserable death in their transportation thither. In that passage, Jefferson was talking about the slave trade that Sister Ford just alluded to. Now, July 4th, 1776, that passage is not in the Declaration of Independence. And the reason it's not in the Declaration of Independence is because the pro-slavery colonists, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, told Jefferson, if you don't take that out, we're not joining you in this fight. So a compromise was made, and they took that passage out. They took it out. They took it out because these particular colonies were pro-slavery colonies, and they understood how much money they can make based on race. So forget colonial America. Let's talk about the very birth of America, which American history says is July 4th, 1776. That was the day that America was born, because that was the day that America declared her independence. And on that very day that America was established, she took this anti-slavery passage out of the document in which she declared her independence from the tyranny of England. She took it out. Now, little Ty and Karen, as far as slavery being all over the world, here's that critical part of thinking based on race that you're so afraid of. Yes, slavery existed for some 11,000 years, if you will. Slavery has always been around, all over the world, as you stated. But there was one unique aspect of American slavery from its birth, from day one. Yeah, it was all about slavery. From that day that America was born, on July 4th, 1776, when she placed into her Constitution, which went into effect in 1788, I want you to take a look at Article 1, Section 2, Part 3. See, that is the uniqueness of American slavery, unlike any other form of slavery in the world. See, that form of slavery took the enslaved out of the human equation, thus defining him as 3/5 of a man. Oh, and now I know you want to come and spin it and say, but Carl, I'm sorry, give me the respect, Professor Carl today. Professor Carl Ty, Professor Carl Karen. Now you want to come and say, but no, that was based on legislative representation. True. But if you're going to base the number of representatives in Congress, it is based on the population, and you will never, ever be able to spin it that you counted Black folks as 3/5 of a man. American slavery is the only form of slavery that took the enslaved out of the human equation. That is what's so unique about it. That's different from it all around the world. So again, from its birth, it was based on race. Karen, Ty, like it or not.
I want to, I was getting ready to, Dwayne, ask if you could cue the video up again. And I want to start with his, with Ty's response, not the question posed from the Karen anchor, the Karen anchor. And the reason I want to play it again is because if we combine everything that both of you are saying, and with what I was saying at the beginning in terms of the escalation of the step-and-fetchery, Dr. Mack, as you give history and we listen and we talk about the historical perspective, how do you look at, how are you a Black man? Georgia, you alluded to this. How are you a Black man, Ty? Put Ty back on the screen. I mean, unless you're still editing, Dwayne, you know, I'd be making all kind of demands. How are you as a Black man going to completely disregard the bodies that are in the ocean right now? How are you as a Black man going to disregard the fact that your ancestor, just like my ancestor, decided not to jump off, but decided to stay in the bottom of that ship and endure for whatever reason that was driving that individual, but they had to make the conscious decision to endure the suffering of that slave trade, of those slave ships. And this guy going to get over. I just want, before you reply again, Bro Mac, I just want us to hear the absurdity one more time. Let's listen to him.
It's absolutely absurd because nobody really wants to get the real history of it. America was not founded on racism. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, there was slavery going on, but slavery itself was not initially a racist thing. It never was about race initially. So to sit there and take it like America was founded on racism, it's a complete lie. Yeah, there was slavery going on, but slavery was going on in all the world. It never was a race thing. So why are we making it a race thing now?
Ty Smith, thank you for being here. Good to have you with us today.
Professor Mack, this clown had the nerve to start the sentence with, "You don't know history." Go ahead and say what you were getting ready to say, bro.
Listen, it is very simple here. Great historians have said, in this case, LaRon Bennett, from Jackson, Mississippi, grew up in Jackson, went to my high school, Lanier High School, worked at Johnson Publisher. That famed historian said, only a fool ignores history. Little Ty, a fool. You're dismissed.
Take his black card too.
And not only am I taking his black card, but he ain't invited to the Black family reunion, and we all know his Kool-Aid is grape.
Wait a minute, wait. You're not going to insult any kind of flavor of Kool-Aid, but this brother certainly drinks his tea unsweetened. Like he thinks it has, like it's too. He thinks mayonnaise is a little too spicy for him. So, Brother Ty, the Black delegation, we are not representative of all Black people, but we are representative of the Black people who agree with what we say. And so, I want to just take a little vote. The Black delegation, are we revoking Ty's black card? Let's have a motion, and we will just, by a show of hands, let's make it easy. Do we revoke his black card by a show of hands?
Well, you know, brother Dixon, the truth of the matter is not so much that Sister Georgia, yourself, and I revoke his black card. History revokes his black card. See, Karen made a mistake when she was cheating on the test. She sat next to Ty. She should have been sitting next to me. She would have got all the answers right. So history has revoked his black card, not us. So again, Ty, you are dismissed. Little Ty.
My. Little Ty. It's okay. Listen, but I do want to close out on this one. I just want to, because we have a lot more videos that we have to respond to. It's amazing what people will put out, Georgia and Brother Mac, what people will put out as a representation of the message that they want to be remembered for. So there's a lot of material for us to cover through the rest of the show. Rebecca Zor is going to join us at 9:00 because there's a couple of videos we have to respond to. But are you all not amazed by how it may you never trend like Brother Ty for the purposes of betraying your people. I don't want to have there's no level of success that I want in this life where I betray my roots. I'm sorry, but it's out there.
Ben, let's be clear here. He's not Brother Ty. He's Lil Ty. Lil Ty.
Lil Ty.
Brother wouldn't do that to you. He's Lil Ty. But proceed.
That's all I had to say, Georgia.
I just keep asking myself, he's like, it wasn't about race. If it wasn't about race, why wasn't there any white slaves? Just answer me that. You want to have a conversation? Just why wasn't there no white slaves?
With Georgia, not in the sake of being complete and fair, they tried that now. See, when the colonies
in America,
first started, yes. See, listen. All right, another little history is when the colonies first started. You got to understand that when you get inside this history, even go back to Australia. How was Australia founded? That's right. Australia was founded as a penal colony. So what was happening in Britain is, as the British colonized America, they wanted to get people over here. Some people paid for their passage and they granted them anywhere up to 1,000 acres of land. And then those who were here, if they wanted to incentivize people to come in via the Plymouth colony or the Virginia colony, they instituted what they call the head right system. So if I paid for people to come over here, they would grant me an additional 50 acres of land, and then I would have the physical services of those people. Let's call them indentured servants. But what England did was, when people didn't just rush to sign up to come to this new world, she then went and started emptying her jails and her prisons. And when the American Revolution started, and America said, no longer are you going to send your thugs and criminals and prostitutes here. So then they started sending them to Australia. So Australia was founded as a penal colony. But when America needed that labor supply, the first thing she did was she turned to Native Americans. But Native Americans looked at we looked at it like the forest. To them, it was like Main Street. Oh, let's just run away. There's Martin Luther King Boulevard, take a right.
Yeah.
They just ran away. They weren't really trying to hear all that. So then they tried to enslave each other. But then their moral consciousness kind of messed with them. And then they couldn't easily identify who was free and who was slave amongst themselves. And then they looked to that dark continent and they saw that a lot of the problems they were having, unlike the Native Americans, we weren't susceptible to their diseases. We knew how to farm the crops. And most importantly, we were easily identifiable because of that melanin in our skin. So they indeed tried to enslave each other, but their consciousness got with them, and that ability to easily identify them posed a problem. So with us, that melanin in our skin did that, and in order to make it digestible for them, they needed to look at us as though we were not human, so they needed to dehumanize us. That are the clip notes.
And that's what they did. And they did that so effectively, that dehumanization, because if I were to extend any offer of grace to Little Ty, it would be this. Brother, you are simply the wrong reaction to white supremacy. You have chosen the reaction of the syndrome. What is this syndrome? It's escaping me right now. The Stockholm syndrome. Instead of fighting against your oppressors, you have embraced your oppressors as a form of reaction. So I'm not going to give you too much of an excuse because you're a grown man and you can read. You can get the history like the cliff notes that Dr. Mack just gave you. But at the end of the day, I just hope that we all have enough sense to understand that this country absolutely has the blood, the sweat, and the tears of Black people in the ground for the exact reason, Dr. Mack, you outlined. Black life became commodifiable. They commodified our lives. They did not. They packed us. They packed us into ships. They monetized human life in the form of chattel slavery.
But Ben, you have to understand. We all have to understand this, and I'm gonna continuously beat the drum. Lil Ty is not an aberration. He's not rare. He's not a unicorn. There's dozens, hundreds, and thousands of them just like him. And when you do not understand our experience in this country via our history, what happened? This is why they do not want the teachings of a holistic experience. In this case, we've coined it the critical race theory. This is why they don't want it. And as long as they don't have it, they can appeal to your sense of ignorance. They can do that. And there's thousands of little ties running around this country. And trust and believe, we got thousands of switches to whoop that ass.
All right, folks, we're going to take it to a quick break. When we come back, Rebecca Zora is going to join us. We're going to be speaking about this report. It is the same report we hear this report all the time. But it's a report that shows you that people who are working full-time jobs at the minimum wage cannot afford to live. It is simply an impossibility when you consider the cost of living. We're going to be discussing that in a couple more videos. Donald Trump Jr. Donald Trump Jr. had the nerve to get on Twitter and say that God himself did not like George Floyd in reference to the lightning strike that destroyed the George Floyd mural. We're going to talk about that too later on in today's episode. Let's go to a quick break. We will be back with Like It or Not after this.
But I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could all be worse. Clothes to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you. From the inside out, it's time. Just say it with your chest now, say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it out. It's your time. Oh, if you're on the bus, say yeah. If you're on the train, say yeah. If you gotta walk, say yeah. Everybody's going somewhere. Young or old, I really don't care. Life has never really been fair. So put your fist up in the air. Say yeah. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free, can't sure don't mind. But every inch of my body's getting wild, wild, wild. The way that you move is like a love machine. Come be my king and I'll be your queen. I'm running so hot, I need to cool me down. I'm flying so high, I don't see the ground. Yeah. I'm running so hot, I need to cool me down. I'm flying so high, I don't see the ground. Yeah. Baby, you said.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning, good morning. Wait, I don't hear you, James. Take yourself off of mute, James. But you're driving, man. Put that phone down. There you go. There you go. I don't hear him. James, you're on mute.
Because he has one hand on the steering wheel.
Yeah, because he needs to not be doing that. Take it. Put the phone down. We don't even want to talk to you, James. We don't even want to talk to you, man.
Figure out how to get that off mute, buddy.
Okay, we go get it. And James, I need somebody else to be navigating with you. I appreciate you jumping in. For those of you who are listening on the podcast audience, DJ Exclusive is not here today, but when we came up after the break, there he was in his car driving to his destination that he's driving. So please drive carefully, man. I'd rather have you back here in one piece than to be saying good morning, good morning, good morning, Rebecca.
Oh gosh, listen, he's gonna be fine. But yes, I did tell him, yo, you got to make sure we keep them hands on them wheels, them eyes on the prize. 10 and 2. But there he goes.
There he is. DJ Exclusive.
Okay, you get me?
Yes, we hear you, brother. How you doing? You got to say it now.
I'm good, y'all. Good morning, y'all.
Wait, we didn't do it right, but still, forget all that, okay? You need to get you a stand in the car where you can put the phone
safely
on the stand and drive safely.
What happened was mine broke. The one that I had, it broke. So I'm just like, and I ain't have a chance to stop and get another one yet. But yeah.
So this is what we're going to do.
I just passed like 5 cops. So yeah, no.
James,
but
while I love
y'all.
Yes, love you too, man. And while I love your commitment to this show, hang up the phone, brother.
Love you. Drive safe. We'll check in on you later.
I'll see y'all tomorrow.
All right, brother. All right.
Bye.
Welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth
and not care who doesn't like it. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Dr. Carl Mack. What's up, Ben? It is Thursday.
Queen Azor. Good morning. When I say Queen Azor, that just makes me feel like we ought to be in Wakanda. We just
Yeah, I feel that too. You know what I mean? I'm vibranium, so that's like that's how I should feel every morning. Thank you. It is Thursday. It's Thursday is like throwback, right? It's like that's like what they coined it nowadays, us kids. Throwback Thursday. We ain't kids no more though. We about 30 plus. But this Throwback Thursday, and I felt like, what do I have? And a lot of my clothes are really thrifted from the thrift store. I was like, I want to feel like Aunt Viv from the
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You too young to even know that show, Rebecca.
Comes with shoulder pads. And then I realized a lot of the tops that I thrifted in college came with shoulder pads. Now, I'm a tall girl and my shoulders are already broad. So a lot of the pictures that I was looking at when I was in college, I'm like, girl, why your shoulders is way up here in the picture?
Wait a minute.
Because the shoulder pads in top. Thing going, baby.
I want to see. I would love to see. You say that, Brother Mac? Do we still have that picture of you from way back at the throwback pictures?
I want to see it.
I need a picture of Brother Mac when he had an afro. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. I got those. But right now, Rebecca, you just got to remember, Diane Carroll was the hit on Dynasty, right? So she had the big high shoulders. That's what you was rocking. Don't worry about it, baby.
All right. Shoulders is a good thing. It's a good thing. And I
the shoulder pads. Wow. The shoulder pads.
I just thought, wow, these are wow, I was looking in the mirror. I'm like, this is how I was walking around, but I do like it. It's comfortable. When I put my purse on my shoulder, I don't really get that, the irritation from the bags, depending on what your bag chain is looking like. It could be leather. It could be a chain. Could be now this shoulder pad is
Rebecca,
protecting my shoulder.
Dwayne, give me a one shot of Rebecca real quick, because now I'm going to have to get a screenshot. And Mark from Australia, I know you're watching. Get a screenshot of the shoulder pads.
He know better. He's on timeout. He's never gonna screenshot me again, because I already told him back up off me. Because every screenshot that man take, it just has me looking very unpleasant. Okay, so.
Well, no, this is what I want the screenshot, because we got to give it to the listening audience, because the podcast listeners, there's so many podcast listeners, they're probably wondering, what in the world are we talking about here? I need them to see the shoulder pads.
Let me balance it out, because my camera's kind of tilted. So let me right there. All right,
Rebecca, what are you?
It just gives me like, good morning.
Good morning.
It gives me power, just like a turtleneck. If you put on a turtleneck, man or woman, the strength that you have, and you just feel like you got to keep your head high, okay? And you just look everywhere is slight. Everywhere you look, and it's very slight, but you got that power right up in here. So this is equivalent to turtleneck power, okay?
Shoulder pad, turtleneck power. All right, I didn't know any of these things, Rebecca. I didn't know the shoulder. I didn't know the shoulder pads from the 90s though, because my pictures were. What was it with shoulder? Well, you already talked about it. Shoulder pads in the 90s was a thing. What are you watching on this Thursday?
I wanted to start with this particular story. I know it's coming out of CNBC, and it was just the headline for me, and I didn't even need to go into the rest of the article. Full-time minimum wage workers can't afford to rent anywhere in the U.S. And this is according to a new report. But I bet you if you went back into an old report, you would still find these same findings. So according to CNBC, people working minimum wage full-time jobs cannot afford a 2-bedroom apartment in any state in the country. And this is by the National Law Income Housing Coalition's annual Out of Reach report. And 93% of U.S. counties, I said 93% of U.S. counties, the same workers can't afford a modest 1-bedroom. I live in a pretty nice 1-bedroom. One check alone from corporate is rent. Okay. But then on top of rent, you got car note, you got insurance, you got to eat. Okay. You got to buy cleaning products for your home. You got to put gas in your car. Oh, God forbid something happened to your tire. Okay. And you got to go ahead and make sure you have that on the side for that funding. Oh, you got to make sure you get because we live in Atlanta. So there's a lot of braking when you go on the highway and things like that. So maybe now your rotors are done. You need new brake pads. These things come into play. And then you got a car that takes 93 gas. Me. My car takes 93 gas, and gas has shot up. I remember when I first got my shorty, she used to take $20. I was like, wow, this is great. And now she takes $45, $50. Okay. So it's not shocking. So the report goes on to say it defines affordability as the hourly wage a full-time worker must earn to spend no more than 30% of their income on rent, in line with that most budgeting experts recommend. This year, workers would need to earn $24.90 per hour for a 2-bedroom home and $20.40 per hour for a 1-bedroom rental. That's an increase from the $23.96 and the $19.50 respectively from last year. But as I said, we're still fighting for $15 an hour in most parts of the country. So this report, like I said, these new findings, I bet you if we go down the line from the old reports, these are going to be the same. This is going to be the same. So I don't even need to go further. All I can say is this is a critical issue in the United States and in America. This has not been, I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is not something new. A lot of our politicians, like Bernie Sanders, has been talking about these kind of things and fighting for it. But we have people in place now who talk about this. Shouts out to Nina Turner. She talks about this very issue as well.
It's because the United States does not care, does not see the fact that if the rent is going high, the importance of making the hourly wage match that. You know, they don't see that importance. And that is my issue, because that's how I know the United States doesn't care about people. They want us to work and go and work extra hours, taking away from our lives, our children, everything. And they call that hardworking. They call that very American. They call that patriotic. They call suffering. They call all of that. That is a part of the American dream. So as long as you can work those extra hours at this BS job with your master's degree, making less than $15 an hour, to afford to pay, to live in a place that you never see. You never see, because you're working all these hours just to keep this place, but you never see it. You never experience your home ever.
So Sister Zora, let's make it even more plain for people. Just look up what is the federal minimum wage in this country. And as of 2020, the federal minimum wage was $7.25 an hour. Now, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. So if you take $7.25 an hour times 40, I think your math is going to put you somewhere around $290 a week, right? So a little over $15,000 a year. It doesn't take anybody's explanation based on if you live in today to understand what your standard of living would be on federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. Now, the interesting aspect of that, let's call it the demoralizing aspect of that, is that the $7.25 federal minimum wage has been as such since 2009. Welcome to a capitalistic, close, trying to get there, a free labor America as you can get. And trust and believe that those in the corporate world argued, fought, kicked, screamed, scratched when Congress decided to raise that minimum wage up to $7.25 an hour. And now take a look, how many folks within corporate America now are lining up to say, no, we need to do something better. So that's why when the former CEO of Costco, Jim Senegal, raised the minimum wage, he set the standards. Then Bezos and others started raising it. So that's why we have to have this minimum wage raised. And again, it doesn't take our, quote, expert analysis to look at it. Anybody who's making $7.25 an hour, and again, if that rate that's coming back to you is $290 a week, and family, that's pre-taxed. So they even took the taxes out. So by the time they take the taxes out, according to Sister Azar, baby girl, you can't even fill up little shorty with that.
Nope. You got to stay home. You can't go nowhere.
You can't go nowhere.
But you can't stay home because you got to get to work. You got to get to work.
You can't stay home because we're trying to kick y'all ass out of here. You're grown. Get up out of here.
Rebecca, and you said in the report that it takes in order to live for housing in what percentage of the country?
93%.
3% of this country.
In the country,
counties.
That's everywhere. Okay, just say the whole damn country.
Listen, that's not an anomaly, brother Mac. You that's not an outlier. The fact that 98% of this country, you need $24. If I've heard you correctly, Rebecca, you need $24 an hour to be able to live.
$24.90. Just say $25.
$25 to live, but the federal minimum wage is $7 an hour. That is a systemic issue. You cannot look at people and say that you could save your money, save your way out of this type of crisis when 98% of this country requires $25 an hour, but the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. It just doesn't make sense.
And Ben, let's look at the numbers again. Look at the numbers. Even if you made it $25 an hour, there's 2,088 work hours in a year if you work 40 hours a year. 2,088. So multiply the 2,088 times 25. You're going to come up with $52,200. Now, you got to ask yourself, as you're driving around, wherever it is you live, what house can you buy for on a salary of $52,200 pre-tax? pre-tax. And then factor in all of your other expenses, cable, your cell phone bill,
That's exactly where I was
daily
gonna go.
dose of Starbucks, homeowners insurance. Go down the line. So even at $25 an hour to afford a home, you better go deep in some of them places in some of our states.
And we can't afford to live. And when I mean afford, not even financially, if we were making that amount of money, we can't afford to live in specific areas that will take us for houses in that particular bracket because of our skin color. Okay, so and now I don't understand. Even like Dr. Mack was just saying, that was the point I wanted to get to. This, even if we were making just about $25 an hour, that $24.90 that they said that would make it where a livable wage for us, that only covers even if you're just renting. Okay. If I do my rent and I go, the 12 months, that it's pricey, because on top of the rent that I have to pay my insurance for here. And then I have to pay the amenity fees, because they got amenity fees over here, child. I got to pay the amenities, the fees over here as well. And then for some places, they have to pay for a year for their parking passes, because if you do live in the city, parking ain't all that. You might live on those areas where the parking is just the street, so it's all of this that includes all that, but that doesn't include your personal items. It doesn't include what a rainy day might look like. Can you put money in a savings account? Okay. Even though your credit is good, you're financially holding on. You pay your bills every month on time, but what's left over for you to go to the bank and say, here's what I have saved up. Here's my home that I was looking at. Here's my income before taxes. And it's ridiculous to me. It's some kind of scammy system. They won't let me get the place if I was making such and such before taxes. I don't even really get this money. I know it says it on here, but after the taxes hit me, I'm way lower than this. So can I really afford this? No, but they're still going to tell me, we'll give you this place. But in reality, I don't even get this money. The whole system is scammed. Here in the US, they really make you believe this is the way to live. But mathematically, the math is not mathing. It's not doing this thing. It's not. But they really make us believe that this is true, this is right, this is the right way to live. They logically put it in books. And they make that work for us.
The math is not mathing. I just got to say, the math is not mathing. Go ahead, brother.
Right, and because you hit that, Rebecca, when you talk about the entire system, you said, do I have enough to put in a savings account? All right, so I want anybody, I don't care which bank you're at, I want you to look up what is the interest rate that they're paying you on a passbook savings account. Probably, let's say it's less than 0.5%. Now, versus me talking in those numbers, let's say that somehow you saved up $1,000 and you wanted to put it in your savings account. You know how much interest you're going to make on that $1,000 in 1 year based on the interest rate that they're paying you to use your $1,000? You're going to make 50 cents. They're going to take your $1,000 and they're going to loan it out for people who want cars, you want homes, you want all these other things. And they're going to charge a far more than 0.5%. But if you put your $1,000 in the bank and leave it there for a year, Bank of America, which is the bank I'm at, they will pay you 50 cents for that $1,000 for the year. And that's if you can save $1,000 based on the $7.25 federal minimum wage that you're making now.
Just one addendum to what he's saying. And the other way that Rebecca, I know you know this very well. I don't have to tell you this, but I just want to just say it. The other thing that they're going to do is not only are they going to loan that out, and if you are a black person and just American in general, I think the average American does not have $500 in an emergency fund. So let's just be realistic. Most Americans, that is a systemic level issue too. It's not you that's poor by yourself. America has a problem with how we exploit our citizens because of capitalism. But I digress. The point is this: not only are they only going to give you 0.5% on that $1,000, Brother Mac, but they have mastered the art of taking your last dime through overdraft fees. So the entire system, Sister Azora, is entirely rigged against us.
No. But hold on, Ben. Let's go here. Let's go here. Now let's assume that you have your $1,000 and you decide you need some quick cash. So you're going to go to the ATM machine and you need $10. They're going to charge you, what, $3, $5 for your $10, which means, percentage-wise, if they charged you $3 to get your $10, they just made 30% on you going in to get your money, and all you wanted was $10.
And all you're going to get is 5% when they use your money.
No, you don't.
No, I'm sorry. 0.5%. That's what I meant to say. You get $5 on 1,000. My God.
No, you get 50 cents.
Oh my God. The math is not mathing, Rebecca.
You're talking to me. I experienced everything. I work for a particular financial institution that they call the bank. They literally call her the bank because this is the bank of all banks here in this country. And
hush exactly your mouth, Rebecca Azor.
Exactly what you're talking about, Dr. Carl Mack. I literally sat in a room and this conversation came up and they said to me specifically, hey, for anybody that wants to open up, and I didn't say the institution, but they called this institution the bank. It's like the bank. But they literally sat us in the room and they told us, hey, it doesn't matter. If people want to open an account, that's fine. We got to understand that what we're doing for the bank as employees is very important. We don't need them taking money out of their savings account for anything. Because we use that money to push out there. We're not going to use our own money. And we're talking about the bank. They told us straight up in this damn room, we're not going to use our own money. Why would we do that? We're going to use their money and give it to other people. And we're going to definitely make a profit off of that. But that's why it's your job as an employee to encourage them not to use their money in their savings, but to open up savings accounts with us. Now, mind you, in this particular time, for me, math never mathed. I never really budgeted well in my life at that time. And then I started looking at these people. I'm like, well, that don't make sense. So now it tells me, and especially with their system, they have a certain system where they try to bring you in and they say to you, hey, if you open up another account, what we can do is go ahead and just round up whatever you actually spent. And maybe you spent like 90 cents. We'll take that 90 cents, make it $1 and put it into the other account for you just to round up and cover that account for you. Right. So then I thought that was such a great idea. And that was way a few years ago. And this is for the bank. And when I started to work for this financial institution, I started to realize, oh, my God, that was a scam because they're taking my money out of one account and they're saying that they're rounding it up, but they're not. There's nothing coming from them. They're taking my money. And I don't need them moving money from this particular account because now it's making this account shorter. And when this bill comes, this automatic bill comes, it's taken from this account that now is missing that extra $1.07 because they thought they needed to move it over to my savings account, or they thought moving over that $10 to my savings account was going to benefit me, but no, it benefits them, right? And so now I get that overdraft fee because when AT&T decided to come and take that money on this particular day, as soon as they found it, because they tried to take it yesterday and it wasn't there, they took it on this day. And now I have a $35 fee. And because I didn't pay that $35 fee within the 24 hours because of the type of account that I have, I don't have a premium account. So they only give me 24 hours turnover time to pay that fee. They charge me another $35. Now I'm at $70 plus whatever I owe. And now they took $10 and put it in this savings account. And now they're profiting off of that money.
And think about it, again, I just want people to understand, in this case, Sister, Queen Azor, you're talking about your specific situation. But now let's all of us that are out there and you're listening to this, just understand this. At $7.25 federal minimum wage, that means that's $1,160 a month pre-taxed. So by the time they take the taxes out of it, you have to understand what you're able to do with that money. And now when you start talking about the true game that the banks are playing, Bank of America, unlike Sister Azor, who calls it the bank. Let me just talk specifically about my bank, Bank of America. Yes, ma'am, you're right there on Front Street. So what does Bank of America do? Now they began to laud us into checklist society. First, let's see if we can get them to do their checks direct deposit. It is a convenience. Yep. Now, speaking of convenience, if you go back and remember when they first introduced ATM machines and they talked about this nominal fee, and that fee was going to be, so once we pay for them, then that fee will go away. No, family. That ATM machine became just like a pole on a bridge or a road. They sell that to you to say, once the toll pays for the road, then the toll will go away. I've never seen a toll in this country that went away. Ask folks in New York about that, right? Ever. Now they get you in by doing the automatic deposit. Then they want you to automate all of your bills. And so even if you decided in your frustration with your bank that you wanted to switch banks, now just think of the headache of what you have to do to go and get yourself from under that bank. But when it comes to what they are doing with those funds, it is an absolute, they are squeezing you every which way you can imagine. They're squeezing you to go to an ATM machine. And again, think about this, family. You go and take $10 from an ATM machine. That thing is going to ask you, will you accept this fee? And if that fee is $3 on $10, 30%, and yet on $1,000 that you may be able to put in a bank if you're making federal minimum wage of $7.25, if somehow through your just meticulous savings, you're able to save $1,000 and you put it in the bank, at the end of the year, if you never touched that $1,000, they are going to give you 50 cents interest on that $1,000. Yet, every time you use that ATM machine that's not yours, 30% they're taking. Men lie, women lie. Them numbers never lie.
This is true. I heard this quote from a song, and I believe it. Okay. Now, numbers do not lie, and I know that for this particular institution, they believe that the numbers that they see matter. But the numbers that the illusion that they give their employees. And like I said, this is a particular financial institution. And the numbers the illusion that they want to give the people who bank with them is something different, right? It's like, we're helping you. I recently received an email from, like you said, these particular financial institutions will keep you like just, you utilize they throw it in your face to use it every which way. They got you. It may make it so hard to get from up under them. They're the closest one on the corner. They are the one when you need to get to an ATM. They're the one in the middle of that shady looking plaza, but you can't go no further because you ain't gonna make it to the gas station. So you got to stop right there. They recently sent me an email, this particular financial institution. They said, because there's a couple of things, apps out there or programs out there now. It's like layaway programs. If you ever heard of Quad Pay, if you ever heard of Afterpay, if you ever heard of Klarna, these are places that will give you money or give you like a balance to utilize so that you can pay off different things, right? And they don't charge you. Most of them are interest free. They really just don't charge you anything. They just say, hey, we're going to take this out of your account in 2 weeks. They do a soft credit pool, but my God, it's been a blessing to my life. So but this particular financial institution pulled from that idea. And they actually were like, hey, don't you need $500 to go ahead and balance out your account? We'll give you $500 and we'll take the money out. No worries. We'll just charge you $5 for taking whatever we take between $100 and $500, or whatever you take from us, between $100 and $500, and we'll just take $5. But then in the bottom, I didn't even go read it, but I know in the bottom, in the small words, it's probably telling you, if you don't pay that thing back in the time that we give you, we're actually going to start charging a lot of interest on you. And if you really don't pay it back, watch what we do. Everything in your account will automatically take and will automatically move over to us. So now you're going to owe us probably $1,000 by the time you get done with this whole thing. I would never trust this particular financial institution with nothing. I had to walk away.
Any of them.
I had to walk away from, as far as banking with this particular institution, especially when I started working with them, because the meetings and sitting at the table and listening to them act like this institution is losing money, when in fact they made God knows how much money, billions of dollars in 1 year over fees, overdraft fees. Overdraft fees. I could no longer. I can't.
Let me give you this real quick. It was something I tweeted back in March, and I have more accurate numbers. I was tweeting this off of memory, but the overdraft fee industry is an industry. At the time I tweeted it, it was an $11 billion a year industry for the overdraft fee industry. This is how much Bank of America, Wells Fargo, all the rest of them make off of your suffering. But the actual number, the more accurate number since then is closer to 24 billion in overdraft fees that they got in 2020 during the middle of the pandemic. They got you for about $24 billion in overdraft fees. The check cashing industry, because as you were talking about that, loan me $100 and I'll just charge you $5. It's modeled off the check cashing industry, which at the time of this tweet was $36 billion a year for check cashing. Those fees that they get you as a check cashing, they are taking you to the bank. It doesn't stop there, though. It goes even further. Late fees. You got cash bail. You got fines and taxes. You got all of these things that are structurally here to, we're going to extend this exact conversation because we're not done with this one. We're going to flesh this one out a little bit more. We're going to take a quick break. And the reason I need to take a break, when we come back, we got to cover 2 more stories before the end of the day. But Rebecca, we got to come back to this conversation because I want to flesh this out. Because Brother Mac, I think between what you're saying with the interest rates, that a lot of people just don't know that the reality. But this whole thing is broken. Go ahead.
Ben, let me just get this one piece in. You talked about check cashing. If any of you have used Money Tree, payday loans, any of those, do you know what the interest rate that they're charging you, what that fee is from an interest rate standpoint? At Money Tree, that interest that they're charging you is 430%. That's what they're
430.
400. Look, Sister Azor, I want you to just Google this. What is the interest rate? Money Tree payday loan interest rate. Just Google that. Anybody Google that. What is the interest rate? Money Tree payday loan. 430%. That's what that fee that they charge you. That's the interest rate that you're getting charged.
I've never done one of those. I've been too afraid to do one.
I've done a lot of them in my past.
Yeah, but they will. That's crazy that you say that. That's that. Yes, it is. Yes, that's the exact word. That's what they do. And I remember this happened to me though. Now, mind you, I said a lot of these financial institutions too will prey off of college students or kids just coming out of college. When we first got to college, I mean, we had economics class and all that. It was real cute. They didn't teach us anything when we got to that hill, okay? It was just like they were waiting for us. As soon as our parents dropped us off, kissed us on the forehead, and, put our little money in our little bank accounts and left us, they were literally standing there saying, don't you want to get a credit card? Don't you want to get something? Don't you? Okay. And this was this particular bank as well, the bank. And they sat there like, don't you want to? We can open up an account for you and da-da-da. So listen, Capital One, I can name that.
Rebecca, I have to cut you here because you said something that we gonna have to flesh out because we gonna speak radical. We don't have the whole family here, and this Black Round Table idea is something that James actually. But we're going in the after party. We're gonna have a Black Round Table about the fact that you said that you got treated like that financially on the Hill.
On the Hill.
On the highest, the first credit card debt I ever got was on the quad of Bethune-Cookman University. Now, I love Bethune-Cookman. I'm Mary's son. We're going to talk about that in the after party because all that stuff we talk about with Black Solidarity, they putting them vulture capitalists right on our campuses. Let's go to a quick break. I got to go to a break. When we come back, it's going to be Donald Trump. Donald Trump Jr. Yeah, we got to talk about Donald Trump Jr. asserting God in the destruction of a George Floyd memorial. I got to get that one on the books. We're going to come right back with one quick song, and we'll be right back after this.
Let me stay forever. The truth is hard.
Picked up some bands, come again. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. Yeah, I'm the running man, rapping rubber bands. They do what I do, I'm like Simon Says. They do what I do, I'm like Simon.
Welcome back. I am here with Rebecca Azor and Dr. Carl Mack. I got to jump into this next story because, well, you'll see as soon as I tell you what it is. Donald Trump Jr. Says that God wanted to destroy a George Floyd mural. Now, I'm reading from a piece from the Daily Dot, and it was written by David Cavucci. And he's describing the situation that took place. A mural dedicated to the memory of George Floyd collapsed Tuesday night in Toledo, Ohio. According to local reports, the building it was painted on was struck by lightning. George Floyd, obviously, we already know, our brother who was murdered by Derek Chauvin. And there is a tweet that gives you the framework of how Donald Trump ran his mouth and got into the conversation. I want to pull that tweet, and it is an image from WTVG 13 ABC. And this is what they tweeted. They said the George Floyd mural on the side of this building at Summit and LaRange has collapsed. No word yet on what may have caused the collapse. And then later we found out that the collapse was because of a lightning strike. Witnesses have told authorities that the George Floyd mural was struck by lightning. And this is according to WTVG 13 ABC News. Donald Trump Jr. being I'll leave all the descriptors for later. Donald Trump Jr. being Donald Trump Jr., he took to Twitter and this is what he said, quote, "It's almost like a higher power is telling us something. When was the last time you heard of a brick building being destroyed by lightning? I am a builder and I'm not sure I've ever heard of it." The assertion really started to trend all over Twitter as thousands of religious people took to Twitter to say that even God didn't like George Floyd. The one from Donald Trump Jr. is actually Brother Mack and Sister Rebecca. It is absolutely not the worst example, but being Donald Trump Jr., who has a position of power in the Republican movement, the conservative movement, Fox News media, on Fox News every night, being the son of the mediocre president in chief. These folks love to assert God when they are the infidels. Rebecca.
I have nothing to say about this because it's like, to me, a natural occurrence like this would happen. And of course, the right wingers would make this such a thing. And we would too. When we would cackle about it. We would say, oh, it was the hand of God that struck down that racist mural over there on Stone Mountain. Some crap like that, right? We would do the same thing. But here's the issue, though. This is what we've seen the Republicans or conservatives or right wingers or alt-righters or KKK members, white nationalists, that whole list. This is what we've seen them to do. Take God, right? And really actually mean it when they say these kind of things. This was God that did this. But how does that equate? He struck it down because what? This mural reminded you that white cops, a system that is against Black people, it's always shooting down Black men, murdering Black men every day. Something that reminded you that. You think God would take that away to benefit y'all? Not the God that I serve. I'm just putting that out there. So, but this is something that we see so much. These are the people that get counsel from people like, I always forget her name, but Joel Osteen, I always remember him. But a white girl, Paula white supremacist.
Paula white supremacist. You know she blocked me on Twitter for calling her that. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Listen, I would too, but she did that. She did that because she understood too what you were saying was true. Now these are the same people that give good counsel, right, to these Donald Trump Juniors and these other conservative leaders, and they walk around and they push out the rhetoric that this is right. I guarantee you, the church that I used to go to, and the leader was white, he would say, God, we don't know why God did it. We don't know the reason behind it. But what we do know is that it's gone. We no longer want to promote hate. We just want to promote love, and God is love. You see how convincing I was right there? You see how convincing I was right there? And that is the type of message that they'll give. They'll give it with that solace, or they'll start shouting at you in this really passionate way, to mimic us Black folks when we really want to get the message out, when we feel really compelled. And they'll make it seem like this is it. God struck down that wall. God did that. God made sure he removed it because it promoted hate. And we're only people of love. Doesn't matter if you're Black, doesn't matter if you're white, doesn't matter. God did that to remove division. That's what they'll do. A natural occurrence. That's what they'll do. But the God that I serve will definitely remind you, terrible people, of the thing that you did. I know that they say, the word says, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Not y'all. Not y'all. Y'all gonna be reminded every day.
Y'all know exactly what the hell y'all doing.
So Brother Ben, a very good friend of mine that I refer to as Your Majesty, wanted me to say to you, he's not 45, he's negative 45. And so the son of negative 45, since Sister Zor has brought God into this, and those who know me know that, I affectionately refer to the golf course as 18-hole Baptist. And it's not uncommon that little baby Jesus liked to join me on 18 holes. And sometimes when he hits a shot across the water, he embellishes his shots a little bit. His ball walks on the water even. But as we're talking about God and soul, it reminds me of one of my favorite scenes from the movie Tombstone, when Doc Holliday was laying in the bed and Wyatt Earp came up to him and he was asking him about the evil of Ringo. And Wyatt Earp said to Doc Holliday, what makes a man like little negative 45 sons, Doc? What makes him do and say the things he does? I'm embellishing a little bit on the line, okay? And Doc Holliday said to Wyatt Earp, a man like little negative 45 son has a great big old hole right in the middle of himself. And he can never kill enough or steal enough or say enough to inflict enough pain to ever feel it. See, little negative 45 son, to invoke the spirit of little baby Jesus that I play with at 18-hole Baptist, to inflict that, to attribute that to God, he has a hole right in the middle of his soul, and he could never, ever fill it up. That's what makes them so evil. And I'll leave it right there, like it.
My God.
Or not.
My God.
That's what
I want to enhance. I want to expand the conversation a little bit because, well, I don't even have to explain it. I'm sitting with two professionals who understand how to cut through the BS. The trick that I've learned, the one trick that I learned in church. There's a lot of stuff I had to unlearn when I left the church and went out and to do politics. There's an entire book. There's a whole book behind that. But one thing I did learn in church was an analytical skill set in terms of how we think. And both of you have that analytical skill set wherever, even if you got it on the 18-hole Baptist church or at the Evangelique church, Rebecca. But I want to play the second clip because I know you guys are going to see how this ties together. Dwayne, I dropped it in the Slack, and I never give you enough time to even get ready for this stuff. Do you have that second clip of right-wing Pastor Greg Locke as he's talking about COVID-19? Now, Rebecca, you know Pastor Greg Locke because he's the one that was out there on the stage kicking and screaming and doing all those things bombastically like you described. The theatrics, right? I
mean, we do theatrics too, but yeah.
We do, but we do it better. It's from our DNA that we do it. They imitate, they colonize that. But I digress. Listen to Pastor Greg Locke as he is ministering to his people this false message. Listen.
The last 15 or 16 months has really just been a dress rehearsal. I tell people it's not the mark of the beast. I get that. But it is a precursor for the beast system, because now we know what churches are going to close. We know who's going to roll over. We know who's going to stand up. They already know. And so I tell people they know who's going to be a problem and they know who's not. Well, I'm going to be a problem. Okay, I have no trouble with that. I'm going to be a problem. I'm going to be a rebel rouser, because when tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes biblical. And I don't think people understand that fact. Everybody wants to quote Romans 13. I know pastors in the United States of America that I've preached for that if this would have been, Nazi Germany, they would have been the first person to put a Jew on a boxcar and then start quoting Bible verses about Romans 13 and how we ought to obey the governing authorities. These are Acts chapter 5 days. We have to obey God rather than man.
Before y'all respond, I just want to make sure that we understand what this clown is talking about. He's talking about getting the vaccine. He's talking about the COVID-19 vaccination and how that is a precursor for the mark of the beast and how that is a synonymous with the oppression that the Jewish people faced during the Holocaust. And he's preaching it to his members as if it is the gospel truth. Rebecca.
It's the same thing I just said. He's somebody who advises -45, Lil -45 Junior. He's somebody that advises that person. So, hearing what he has to say about the vaccine, he's also somebody that probably advises. What's that little Fox News host name that we used to cover a lot with the little banging? Tucker Carlson. Right, him as well.
with the little banging.
This is where they get their good counsel. So, to hear this is nothing to me because it's just what they do make sure, though, is that the message that they send, the message that goes across is going to always align, right, with their political view. All of them. You ain't never going to go to one of them and ask them, how do you feel about the vaccine? And hear them say, well, you know what? I think the vaccine is going to save lives. You're going to hear this exact same thing. They're putting in a chip in our bodies to control us. And then in the church, they're going to change that to remix it to basically that is the mark of the beast. And that's how they're gonna, and the government uses it to control you. And that isn't of God. We're not meant to be controlled by the world. And the Bible says what we need to do as a people is go and rebel. And what we saw, though, mind you, these are the same people that preached to those people that walked up those Capitol steps on the 6th for that terrorist attack. Okay, so this is what they teach them to do. That is the form of rebellion. And him saying that anytime he says that, that's what the people that he advises hears. That's what those people did on January 6th. And you can bet your bottom dollar that won't be the last time they do something like that. So,
Brother Mac, wow.
Well, Ben, I love bringing receipts. And given that you have been a man of divinity, and I, a Sunday school dropout, I will defer. Thank you very much.
Well, listen, I'm more like you mentioned Tombstone. I love that movie, by the way. I'm old enough to know it. But I'm also old enough to know the movie Contact with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey. And he was a man of the cloth, but he left the ministry because he found out he wasn't really good at the cloth part. So I can't really claim to be a man of divinity, but I did learn enough to know BS. I did learn enough to know BS teaching when I see it. And Pastor Greg Locke, along with this entire thought process of God being on the side of our oppressors, is just counter to the Bible. It just is. You can't even read. You can't make it through Genesis. Hell, you can't make it through Exodus. You cannot make it through Exodus and come out with the idea, say, I was going to cuss so I could make sure y'all understood I'm not really a preacher. But there's no way in hell you could go through Exodus and come out with the idea that God is on the side of white supremacy. Talk to Pharaoh and Moses. I don't care what you believe. Dismiss the Bible. But if we play by the rules that these clowns want us to play by, like we do with the Constitution, like Thurgood Marshall did with the Constitution, if we play by their own biblical rules, your ass can't even get through Exodus and not realize that y'all are playing the role of Pharaoh and you are the oppressor. And so, no, God is not on your side, white supremacist, racist, -45 Junior.
Their God is. So, they the same God that they taught, that they wanted to teach to the slaves that made us feel like, or made slaves, enslaved people feel like, hey, this is right because the Bible says it. And, you being black, you got to be enslaved and treated the way that you were treated, and that whites are, definitely superior. And that's the same teaching. So when I hear any white person, any person that was supported Donald Trump, any conservative person, do you know what they believe? Holding the door open for me during the George Floyd protest in the middle of a pandemic was a godly thing to do.
I'm sorry. What that they do?
Those same people believe that holding the door open for me during the George Floyd protest and the middle of a pandemic was a godly thing to do. That was enough. But they're the same people that still believe that George Floyd deserved to die, right? So,
or that lightning strike was caused by God.
The same thing, all of that. So even when you say, Ben, that, like there's no way that these people actually can tell us that the Bible is going to back this up. They do believe that though. And they will tell us that because they told, them slaves, that this was it. This is the same way. So even in 2020, they still walk in that. They still believe that. So I'm not surprised. And the more that we have people in power that look like us, like the Daniel Camerons of the world, they're going to say that is godly. How this black man acts is godly, how he supports all white ideas and things like that. But in the same sense, he prays over his food and he says his grace. That's a godly man right there. That's what they teach us. When I hear all of this and I see all of that, it's just BS, because we all serve different gods or whatever. But this particular guy, I don't serve that guy. And I know that at the end of the day, I don't rock with that one. That ain't my God. So,
Rebecca and Ben, I will say this, even as a Sunday school dropout, religion should promote a oneness of humanity. And basically what we're talking about in this situation of the son of -45, little negative, is reason and stupid are trying to have a conversation. And I'll say it again, reason and stupid. It is impossible for reason and stupid to have a conversation. It is simply impossible. And so the idea when you're talking about scripture, there's no aspect of scripture that will validate the positions that these people are taking. That is, to me, what you're saying. You're saying, Brother Mac, Sunday school dropout, friend of little baby Jesus, you are reasonable, and that's why you can't understand stupid.
We gonna have a whole bunch of movie references. I'm sorry, Doc. I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
No. I just needed to little baby Jesus reminded me that amen, amen, and amen.
12 pounds, 4 ounces, little baby Jesus, Talladega Nights, bro. I see Brother Mac, you and I could probably do a movie thing. We're going to take a quick break, Brother Dwayne. Give us a quick break because I got one more story we got to cover. But before we go to a break, Brother Mac, I look at these folks and I look at the fact that they have no compunction about co-opting Martin Luther King. We said that with On the Clock with Georgia Ford. We see they love promoting people like Daniel Cameron, like you said, Rebecca Zora, the Kentucky District Attorney, or Attorney General rather, who refused to bring charges against the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. Right?
Let's call him Little Danny.
Little Danny. Little Danny refused to do his job and lied to us and called it justice. We saw it in Little Ty Smith, the video that we watched earlier, responding to Fox News and saying that slavery wasn't racist. They absolutely love promoting individuals and narratives that protect white supremacy. And that's
okay. Well, Brother Ben, I think I got it. Since we've been talking about little baby Jesus, we've been into the scripture. What Little Ty and Little Danny and Little Cammy, what they all represent, scripturally speaking, would be the one who accepted those 30 dirty pieces of silver. You may know him as Judas. Like it or not.
Wait a minute. I'm gonna do you one better, Doc. Let me tell you something that you might be a Sunday school dropout, right? I might be a former preacher, but listen, at the beginning of this conversation, the very first thing that came to my mind was a conversation that you and I had. And it had to do with the fact that there are no Judases in this house. And for you to bring it back at the end and go directly to the reference that there are always going to be people who are willing to sell out their own. Hell, they sold out Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. You think they won't sell us out for whatever contract they got for the chance to run for Mitch McConnell's seat, little Daniel?
Little Danny.
Let's go to a quick break. We go a quick break. We got to snap on somebody who's going after one of our little sisters, Coco, the tennis player. No, not Coco. I'm going to get my story straight. I shouldn't have messed that one up. But we'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Sticks and stones may break my bone, but your words can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, I ain't been right more than I've been wrong, and it still can't hurt me. No, it just can't hurt me. No. No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, no, no. I know it's hard to be polite, and it's easy being petty. My mama used to tell me, gotta use you when he ready. Man, it's crazy how my brother said it could have been my cell. It's either prison or a grave, that's what everybody tell me. Man, life ain't a beach, it's a female dog. I'm staying 10 toes down, though I still might fall. Oh yeah, now I done came through, knocking pictures off you walls. Cause loving people who persecute you, it's still a tough. So be a light up on my path and a lamp under my feet. I know my faith's strong, but my flesh still kinda weak. When that victory be looking like the verge of defeat, and I feel that disrespect, help me turn my other cheek and say, sticks and stones may break my bone, but your words can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, I ain't been right more than I've been wrong, and it still can't hurt me. No, it just can't hurt me. No. No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, no, no. No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No. See, it's hard to be polite. It's easy being petty. Mama used to tell me, gotta use you when you're ready. Cause I ain't working on my own timing. Ain't got no diamonds on me, but I stay shining. Yeah, yeah. They say the world would be a better place if we take out the hate. Stop all the hate right now. Yeah. Let's keep it real, it'd be better if we just subtract the fake. Yeah, so be a light up on my path and a lamp under my feet. I know my faith's strong, but my flesh still kinda weak. When that victory be looking like the verge of defeat, and I feel that disrespect, help me turn my other cheek and say, sticks and stones may break my bone, but your words can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, I ain't been right more than I've been wrong, and it still can't hurt me. No, it just can't hurt me. No. No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, no, no.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I want to go to this last clip. We're in the last half hour here, and we got to discuss something from the like it or not perspective. This is, I mistakenly said Coco, thinking of the young tennis player who actually was a member of my church down, the church I attended down in Boynton Beach, Florida. So I was thinking about tennis, and I thought about our sister there. But this is a clip of Ben Mahler, and he is a Fox Sports radio host. And he is discussing Naomi Osaka, discussing and saying that she is no hero and should have quit in the first place. In regards to Rebecca, we've talked about it at great lengths. You covered it in regards to her doing what was in her best interest for her mental health. Now, it's a long clip, and we haven't had a chance. We got it right before the show, so we haven't had a chance to chop it up. That's fine. We're going to react in real time. And Rebecca, I want you to navigate the conversation. You let Dwayne know when we need to stop and discuss, because they're going to stop coming for our young sisters like this. Do you want to say anything before we go, or you want to jump right into it?
No, go ahead, because
let's jump to it.
There are a lot of things that Naomi Osaka is doing for herself where she's developed the skin of my mental health matters and everything else doesn't. So, but let's go ahead and play this clip. And
all right, Dwayne, it's in y'all hands.
Where are you at on this one? It's an unorthodox plan from Naomi Osaka to fix tennis and the media and all that. Now, I'm going to go first. I am rolling my eyes to the back of my head on this one. You've got Code of the West, Arsenio Hall, and grown-ups. And we will connect all of these things together, and we are going to make the Baba Ganoush. Make the Baba Ganoush, Ben. We're going to make the Baba Ganoush. Now, first of all, this has got to be the dumbest idea I've heard of in some time. Right? And you wonder, did she come up with this on her own? This sounds like the work of a focus group. I know what we're going to do. We're going to give sick days to not do your job or at half your job. How silly is this? I mean, adults look at this and they just like, this is ridiculous. Not surprisingly, though, the wokesters out there are like, well, this is a good idea. A lot of people in the media are sympathetic to the absurd. Rather than just dismissing this out of hand, some are actually embracing it. Undoubtedly, it'll be considered. This topic has been politicized and weaponized. Any pushback, you are called nasty names and you're evil and blah, 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 blah. This, that, whatever ism it is, they'll call you all kinds of nasty names. Now, that's standard operating procedure these days. We think it's just dumb. That's a simple answer. Occam's razor, the simplest answer is the right answer. It's just dumb. All right, so because Naomi Osaka is, in her words, uncomfortable with the press, do you need to change the entire system? By the way, that was a rhetorical question. Now, we believe in the code of the West, that life would be easier for everyone if you just simply follow the code of the West, which it just makes it easier. Among the tenants.
All right.
Thank you. That was just too much. It was making me cringe. So it just, yes, people who have jobs, we all have sick days. And even in our lowly or our corporate or whatever positions we may have, they have this whole thing of they control you. So the harder you work and the less sick days that you take, or when you don't use your PTO, you are a better worker. And maybe after we work you hard, we will raise your salary by $2, or we will give you a position, or we'll move your cubicle by the window, right? So with her, with people who are in the sports world, I don't know that man who was just speaking, but I know he's a commentator, right? And with people who are in the sports world, with people who are athletes, particularly, the world, fans, they think that they own you and they have control over you. You're only there for their entertainment. They're not there with you when you are practicing day and night, when you're going on particular diets, when you're taking long periods of time away from your family and friends. Yes, you get the money for this stuff, but there's so much that you put into this. And what they expect you to do is that one time when you pull up for the game is to entertain them. And so what this man is saying is like, she has no right to take a day off because she works for us. And we need her to be entertaining to us. We don't care if she's having a bad day. Yet when that man who did his shooting spree, out here, that terrorist, a domestic terrorist who did a shooting spree out here in Atlanta, had a bad day, they gave him grace. Okay? So here is, because they don't have control over her, because she said, I am mentally not here and I no longer want to be abused mentally by people who call themselves my fans, and by professionals in the sports world who believe that I have to go by everything they say and I have to take their abusive rhetoric towards me and how I play and how I move and how I function, towards social media and the way that they say that I look, and how I'm not photogenic, all kinds of things that have been thrown her way. And because she decided what matters to me most is my mental health, these psychopaths who believe that they have control over her come out here and say that she's weak and that she's, she doesn't deserve like this same man who's speaking from the Fox News studios, all he does is wakes up and criticize her. That's all he has to do. Meanwhile, she has to go out there, practice, put her best on to represent America, okay? Put her best on to represent America. And these Americans are saying that because she's taking time off to make sure that she's okay, so that she can be her best self when she does decide to come back, she's weak And, she doesn't deserve to do that. So I want to point out that, yes, she is half Japanese, but she's also half Haitian. Okay. We're allergic to any kind of disrespect. So when she decided to take her time off, honey, she decided to take her time off. And I'm happy that she had the support of her family right there with her. We're allergic to BS. We're allergic to people thinking that they own us. Slavery isn't in us. We're going to rebel against the system, period. So shouts out to Naomi Osaka for that. And this Ben Mahler guy, he can kiss my ass. I do not care. I don't care.
Like it or not. You got to say like it or not, Rebecca.
Like it or not.
And so, Sister Rebecca, let me put this, in the perspective in a different light. When you talk about they just want us here for their entertainment. And so obviously our sister did what was in her best interest. But take a look at some of those who did not do what was in their best interest. Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears, Macaulay, I think
Macaulay Culkin, yeah.
Corey Feldman. But on the other hand, I want to take a look, taking it back to tennis, of a brother who was demonized and came up to truly be shown as a prophet. And that's the greatest coach in the history of sports, Richard Williams, father of Venus and Serena Williams. See, when Brother Williams, the great coach, saw what they were trying to do to his little black girls, our little sisters, he intervened in a most dominant way.
Yeah.
And by doing so, he made those sisters tougher. He drew back to make sure that their mental health was at play. And so when we take a look at America, again, as you said, Sister Rebecca, they just want to use these athletes up for their own entertainment. And all you have to do is take a look at what happened to young people who didn't have that strong support system like Sister Naomi has, like Sister Venus had, like Sister Serena has. We're going to take care of ours. Now, if you want to take your children out there and simply capitalize off of them, damn their mental well-being, damn their health, so be it. But trust and believe the criticism that you're giving to us as we reach out and surround our babies and protect our children's mental health from this constant barrage, which we know as American capitalism, as you said, the hell with that, like it or not.
I 100% agree. And you know what, the particular video that I think of when I'm going to drop it in the chat right now, but the particular video that I think when you say that was of Venus and Serena when they were kids with their little beads in their hair, and they were being interviewed. I guess the interviewer was asking, "Hey, why do you think you're so great?" or something of the sort in the question. And the father was like, "Okay, now you pushing it because you think she's great. They're kids. Stop asking my kids. I already told you guys." He literally de-interjected, and he made sure that you are not going to make my kids into women or whatever. They're kids. You're not going to ask them any type of question to ruin their minds and not believe in their greatness. So I absolutely, that's exactly what came to my mind when I thought about that. We have to protect our own. And I'm glad that Naomi Osaka is in a place where she can protect what she thought, okay, you know what? My mental health is important. A lot of us don't have that ability because some of these people are coming out the trenches, coming out the mud. So all they're getting thrown is money, right? But they're like, I need you to give me every part of you. I control you. I own you because I give you this money. I make you rich. But by the time you get home, you're too exhausted, right, to do anything. The type of, the lifestyle that you may want to live, the happiness that you may have, the depression that comes with this. Sometimes people go into a definitely bout of depression where they commit suicide. Robin Williams, nobody knew what was going on with that man, but we owned these people's creativities and their minds and the times that they had to themselves. Nobody knew these people were breaking. These geniuses were breaking, especially for our athletes and our athletes of color. The world, America, believes that they own the coach, right, already calls some of these people boys, right, and treats them as such. And then from the couch, the fans get so upset. They feel like they own these people. They will take to the streets and literally burn stuff, right? Burn stuff because their particular player didn't play the way that they wanted them to. The person, the team that they love didn't win. The control that America says that Americans have over athletes is ridiculous. And I think that we need to start pointing that out. It gets very sick. It's sick.
And Rebecca, I would say this, even if we stayed within the tennis world, I would invite everybody to go back and take a look at Jennifer Capriati. Take a look at what happened to that young girl. And it's certainly not her fault, the mental breakdown that she had. You know, who was blaming her parents for not protecting that child? Who was blaming the coaches for not protecting? The same way with Simone Biles. When Simone Biles talked about the evils of what happened in the gymnastic system, there were a whole bunch of adults that were around those sisters who should have been able to protect those young girls. And they didn't. They turned a blind eye to it. Why? For seeking capital, seeking financial gains, seeking the adorations of having these incredible systems. So in the case of just the sport of tennis, go back and look up Jennifer. Look at what happened to that young sister. The mental anguish, the pressure of being a professional athlete. So when I hear Naomi speak about that, from a tennis perspective, I so appreciate, and that clip that you were talking about with her father, with her daddy, Richard Williams, when he intervened. She is a child. Don't talk to her like she's a grown woman. My baby girl has answered you, and you're going to leave that there. I so applaud that brother for protecting. And again, when I call him the greatest coach ever, you look at the number of titles that the two sisters have between them. Not only major titles, but Olympic gold medals. There's not another coach in any sport that rivals that. And I would say that between he and his wife, the fact that they protected our baby girls, protected them mentally, kept them mentally strong, is what happened. And in the case of all these others that we have mentioned, the reason why they failed is because they didn't have anybody around them to protect them from this system and could not recognize the mental depression. And in most of these cases, like in the case of Britney Spears, her biggest fight is against her daddy. Jennifer Capriati was against her family because they never intervened in that. So to the support system around Naomi, God bless you, thank you. To the support system that was around the Williams sisters, God bless you and thank you, family, for doing that. The hell with what this critic on the sideline, who probably ain't never competed in anything worthy of a championship ever in his life, but can sit there and try to draw criticism against Sister Naomi.
Very confident.
Very confident.
You say it so easily. Why?
Because I believe it.
And let me tell you why. What she said it with so much confidence the first time. But if you keep going on and on, listen, we can't keep interrupting. I mean, if you want, you got to understand that you're dealing with an image of a 14-year-old child, and this child gonna be out there playing with your old ass, and he gonna be in the grave. When she says something, we done told you what's happening. You deal with a little black kid, and let her be a kid. She'll answer it with a lot of confidence. Leave that alone.
I absolutely adore and I love that clip, but he understood very early on, not only because of her mental health, but this is a little black kid and you are trying to you're trying to make her grown. She is a 14-year-old little black kid that is confident about her game. She said she's confident. Do not ask her why. Do not take away that innocence from my child. Okay? Do not tell her that she shouldn't be confident. Don't question her confidence. And especially with you being a white man and this being a little black child, she is going to be amazing and big while you are well into your grave, sir. Don't play with mine. The protection that was right there for those girls, with their father, because he understood. He knew. what America does, especially to these athletes, and most of our athletes in these different areas, in these different avenues, we see what they do with our Black football players. We see what they do with our Black basketball players. We see they own them. They own them. And I can tell you right now, yes, that Americans do this with a lot of the sport, but the experience, I can tell you, is probably very different when it comes to a white athlete and when it comes to a Black athlete. I'm pretty sure that mental health may be looked at when it comes to a white athlete a little bit better, right? We saw what happened.
I will say this though, Rebecca. Even if there were no examples of this different level of treatment for white athletes, Richard Williams, as their father, stepped in and protected his baby girls. And if you look at it, again, this is to understand the mind of a child. And scripture, what they say, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I acted like a child. And now that I've become grown, it's time to put childish things away. So even when you look at that, you see how she's smiling right now. She's okay because she doesn't understand the mental game that he's playing. And then when her father intercedes, all of us can remember. I can remember when my single mother just would not do it. And I'd be like, oh no, mama, please, mama, don't do it. And to some degree, maybe she felt that way. But I guarantee you, as a grown woman looking back on this clip, those children absolutely have adoration for their father for stepping in and doing what he did. Because now as adult women, now they understand the protection and the love that Daddy Williams was providing for his children. And the hell with what America thinks about him, because when it's all said and done, he was an absolute prophet of knowing just how dominant and how strong his girls were going to be, because he made them mentally strong as well as enhancing their physical game. And for that, that's why that, every time I watch that, it just fills me with love of understanding Mufasa protecting him baby girls.
Right there. I think for Naomi Osaka, what I love is that she just saw herself possibly spiraling out of control, and she stepped back without anybody's okay or check off or anything. She decided for herself, let me go and protect my mental health, and let me go do things that I love. Let me just step back. Let me take a break. America, for a long time, and this can be in any arena, in any avenue, in any job, in any place, they literally, and I used to really be on this too, guys. The harder you work, the less, the better it is for you. The less sleep you have. There are how many hours in a day? I remember seeing a clip of Steve Harvey saying this. Somebody who got mad money now, saying this. Listen, I'm poor, so I'm going to rest. The least I can do for myself is rest.
Come on.
I work for people all day, every day. And the least I can do for myself is rest. And there's this viral clip of him saying, you guys, you got this much time in a day, you need to, and he was calculating and saying, you shouldn't be sleeping at all, because there's money to be made if you're trying to do this and this is trying to happen. And I understand, but I remember going through my whole entire 20s with that. And not to say I didn't enjoy my 20s, but there was so much time that I just took in this journalism game. I'm 31 now. And there was so much time from the age of 18 to maybe about 27. I invested in giving no sleep, staying up for everything, because I thought the more that I intern, the more that I get abused by 3 different companies that I'm working for all at the same time. Big name companies all at the same time. But the more that I let them abuse me, but then I show them that, hey, I'm here and I'm working hard. Look what I can do. Look how I did that. That will work in my favor. No, I had to step back and be like, my mental health matters. I went through a really bad depression, but I would get up and go to these 3 different places every day. And then I would, when I, graduated, got a master's degree, and I went to this particular place, and they told me, if you do it like this, it's going to be so much better. And investing and letting them pull from me so much, never taking the opportunity to step back and take a breather, because I thought if I did that, I wouldn't be able to eat. I wouldn't be able to do anything. And they told me, if you do this, this is going to take you here. If you do this, it's going to take you here. Never happy, never anything. And I finally decided I need to back up, because the abuse, the people pulling from me, the people pulling that they own me, my voice, telling me how I should look, how I should be, I've allowed it for too long. I am tired physically, mentally. I need to rest. I need to recalibrate. So,
and Sister Rebecca, you know what America does when America felt that way? They introduced us to this word called sabbatical.
Mm-hmm.
Let me step back and take a sabbatical and recharge. But the moment that Naomi decides she wants to take a sabbatical, now all of a sudden there's a problem with it. When Black folk decide they want to take a sabbatical, there's this overt criticism of it. But America, when she needs a sabbatical, go back and look through corporate America at CEOs, COOs, high-level managers. When they decide that they're burned out and they need to recharge, sabbatical.
Yeah.
Rebecca, you said, and I almost had a fit over here. You said, I'm poor. The least I can do is rest.
Mm-hmm.
I want to challenge every person watching us. I don't care how rich or how poor you are, but particularly if you are a part of the working class of this country, for which Black people are disproportionately representative. Let's get something straight. Black folks are poor in this country. Not all of us. Some of us got our thing together, but it's not because the system has been kind to Black people. And I want to demonstrate to you how just unkind this system has been to Black people, because, Brother Mac, we could tie it to how unkind they've been to their own children.
Mm-hmm.
The reason Macaulay Culkin and the rest of them are having to fight with their parents for, or whatever the case may be, we know for sure. I want to contextualize it properly. I don't really know exactly what happened with Macaulay Culkin, so let me take him off the table. But I can tell you for sure the reason Britney Spears has had to fight with her father, is because it's not because it's an indictment against them as human beings. It's because it's an indictment against the system that they have chosen to use as human beings. This capitalistic, greedy system, they really think that they have an advantage. When I say they, I'm particularly talking about the arrogance of those two white men in these two videos we just watched.
Mm-hmm.
Run them as B-roll. Run those two white men as B-roll, because I want to show you exactly how different it is when these people who yield to this system, look at what they're willing to do to their children. I need to show you exactly how far this system will go to their children. Not only will they never let you get a sabbatical, especially if you're a Black child, not only would they allow you to have peace of mind, and even if you're a poor person, they don't want you to have peace. This is how far they will go in this system. They had to create labor laws to keep these people from exploiting their own children as a source of child labor. Now, if they will not protect, one second, Brother Mac, if they will not protect their own children from their own desire to exploit, what the hell you think they're going to do to Black people? Or rather, let's take a look at what they have done historically to Black people. Brother Mac.
And Ben, I'll absolutely challenge you on when you said it's not an indictment against them as humans. When you would sacrifice your child, you don't get no more sad, sorry, pathetic than that. It is an indictment against their humanity when you would do it to your child for money.
For that 30 pieces of silver. For that 30 pieces of silver.
And since we brought up the 30 pieces of silver, let me make sure I understand something, because you're right. We don't have Judases, up in here no more, right? So, but what we do have is I've opened up a new hotel, and people like Lil Ty and Lil Cammy and Lil Danny, y'all have reservations at it. In this hotel now, for those who want to go back biblically and be that Judas, we're not going to call you Judas, but we will reserve you a penthouse suite in the Kunta Hotel.
La Kunta Inn. La Kunta Inn.
In the Kunta Inn.
La Kunta Inn.
And I'm taking your reservation. I got your reservation. I didn't make it in pencil. I made it in ink.
Man.
And
I need a black artist.
Severity of it, depending on the severity of what you do, determines whether or not you get the penthouse or you just get a row. But nonetheless, you all have reservations at the Kunta Hotel.
Listen, I need a black artist. Listen, Mark from Australia, you know you're my dude. Don't touch this one. I need a black artist to render us the Kunta Inn and send it to us for next week.
No, Ben.
Rebecca.
See, no, Ben. It's not an inn. It's the Kunta Hotel. An inn is like the Motel 6. No.
Oh, you gonna get the you gotta get a penthouse. You're right.
You don't get a penthouse in an inn, sweetie.
You're right. You gotta get a
hotel.
No, we give them a hotel.
Listen, not the Kunta, the Kunta, spelled D-A, capital C-O-O-N-T-A. The Kunta Hotel.
Let's get it. I need that rendered by a black artist and sent over to us for next week, because some people do get the penthouse suite on that. My goodness, Rebecca, get the last word before we get out of here.
I mean, that's the last word for me. I definitely want to see what the Kunta, the hotel would look like. I can already see that we've had celebrity politicians in there. Like you said, Daniel Cameron probably had a few nights at the Kunta.
No, Rebecca. Once you get in, you got permanent stay. You got permanent stay in the Kunta.
You got a permanent stay in the Kunta.
This is the Roach Motel, bro. They can't. Once you go in,
it's not a motel. It's actually pretty.
Listen, I'm not trying to rename it. I'm saying conceptually, once they go in, they do not come out. That's what.
No. You got permanent reservations there. Don't worry. You get reward points and everything. I mean, we got you set it up.
Gotcha. Well, it's Thursday once again. It was good being with y'all. We miss you, Bubba. I know that if you was here, you would have heard your little laugh, cracking up, and giving us good music, reading off our super chats. If you have not already, become a Patreon right now at patreon.com/like it or not. Again, that's patreon.com/like it or not. I know you guys have been looking for us. If you've been looking for us, you can find us right here on the Like It or Not page. Get your friends, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins tomorrow on our Friday show to definitely get over on the Like It or Not YouTube page as we figure out what's going on with Benjamin Dixon's page, because the haters gonna hate. That's just what it is.
I got one more. I got 2 more days in lockdown.
In the jail. But that's all right. You guys have been rocking with us. For those of you who have been looking for us, we're right here. I love you guys. Mean it. I hope that you enjoy this Thursday. Go out and get some sun. And if you can, and you got some PTO, and my message spoke to your heart. I didn't say quit that job, but I did say put in that time and take a day. If you got sick time, take a day, girl. That's paid. Okay? I love you guys. Mean it. Enjoy your day. Go and be great.
In your lavender.
Can't get any higher.